We're not confused.
That's what it is.
All like
Okay.
outlets.
If you move the Zoom screen around,
Well, it might be cheaper than,
get me out, everybody else in.
could be cheaper than a work
Thank you.
adventure.
Good evening, everybody. It is June the 7th at 6 p.m. I'm in chambers with councillors Fenleth, Barmere, and Abbott, and senior staff CAO DeJong and CFO Rook. On the screen are Public Works Manager Mr. Jaffer, and he's had Mr. Bain here a second ago, and I presume he'll come back in a second.
He's,
So this is CAO points out to me, we're running short staff in our technical department.
In our everything department.
There we go. All right, so I'm calling the meeting to order, and we will go to the closed council meeting immediately. And the proposed topics for discussion in the absence of public are contractual matters, land matters, enforcement matters, and CAO is going to give a flurry of stuff, and I apologize to everybody because I sent most of them today. I think we're covered on everything there, or something
In terms of
privacy related.
The topics are fine. They can be expanded a little bit to cover the additional.
Okay,
items.
thank you very much.
But the reasons for closing, there are a few to be added.
If you could give me those.
So 91A, which is personal information about someone who already holds a position with the municipality,
Thank you.
elected or officer or otherwise. And B, personal information of someone who is being considered for municipal award or honor, etc. And K, which is negotiation related to discussions respecting a proposed provision of a municipal service that are in sensitive
Okay,
discussions.
thank you very much for those. So given the topics we know we're going to cover. So the meeting will be closed to the public on the basis of matters to be considered under the following sections of the community charter. And where required, the council does consider that matters could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And those sections would be sections 91 E, F, G, I, and N, section 90, subsection 2 and B, and section 91, A, B, and K. Council anticipates reconvening the open meeting at 7 to discuss the balance of the agenda. All those in favor of the reasons to move into close and the topics to be covered and format we've done, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
yes.
Covered. Thank you. We will now go into closed.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. It is 7:05. And I am in chambers, as you can see, with councillors Cunliffe, Barmere, and Abbott. Councillor Bain is virtual. He's not well this evening. I've asked if he turn his camera off because he may have to leave the room from time to time. But we thank him for joining with us anyhow. Council has just come has suspended the closed portion of the meeting for the moment, and will return and report out after closure of or saying goodbye to the public gallery, and we close our public meeting. Next piece up is the adoption of the agenda, and I will put forward that the agenda as is with my 3 additions, which under mayor report will be Lions Bay Beach Park recognition areas. Second item will be a neighborhood grant support. And the third update will be a brief Canada Day celebration update. And CAO DeJong, you had something under resolutions, I think?
Yes, item 10, resolution with respect to the annual report.
So you'll have that ready when we get there?
Yep.
Okay. Councillors, any other additions, deletions, changes?
Not coming.
None. Call a motion. All those in favor of the agenda is amended. confirmed. Yes, thank you very much. Which brings us to the public portion of the meeting. And I'm going to presume, Mrs. Simons, that you're keen and want to go first. Have your hand up. So if that's fine, you can unmute, you can turn your camera on or off as you choose. Just before you begin on the public portion, I'd make a general comment that if there's, we'd like to engage with our gallery members. If it's an answer that we can provide quickly or something immediately, we would. If it's an area that we could point in direction, we'll do that. If it's a more detailed question, both council's and staff's preference is to correspond with you before the next meeting. And as was the case in the last meeting, many of the questions are very detailed and we've provided very detailed answers. And quite simply, staff and council are not prepared to just guess or give partial information. And so that will be the way we do business going forward. I think we'll go with Mrs. Simons first, and I thought I saw your hand up, Mr. Sredsky. We'll go with you second. So Mrs. Simons, you're unmuted. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to draw your attention to the, I think it's the very last set of documents in the council package under correspondence. It's with regards to renewing commitment by council by Lions Bay to the Howe Sound Community Forums. And also the, because there's been an update to the principles for cooperation to modernize them. And also at the last Howe Sound Community Forum, Councillor Cunliffe was there, and there was that was second of 2 conversations around sustaining the Howe Sound Forums and the Howe Sound Biosphere designation. So the documents that are in your correspondence, other local governments have brought those to the Committee of the Whole meeting so that there can be time to discuss them. I would be, I could, just offer to answer any questions you have when you have time to look at them, but just wanted to reference those documents, and also that, of course, we've submitted the same set of requests to each of the local governments that have participated in the Howe Sound Community Forums for over 20 years. So didn't want it to go unnoticed.
Thank you very much.
Can I just ask a follow-up question?
Oh, I think Councillor Barmere has a question for you, Mrs. Simons, if you're still on.
So are you suggesting that we bring this back to another meeting and discuss it then? Is that what you're recommending?
I am not, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, that I just want to make sure that you did notice them and you did discuss them, and if you require them to come back to another meeting, that's up to you.
Okay.
But there are requests in there in that letter. So I just wanted to make sure you had time to read it.
Thank you very much for taking the time to call in, Mrs. Simons.
Okay.
Good
Thank
evening.
you.
Mr.
Hi.
Sredsky? Mr.
Sorry, Ron, could we just maybe follow up on that right now when it's fresh in all our minds?
Just a second, Mr. Sredsky.
Can we maybe just follow up on that now? It's all fresh in all of our minds. I mean, there's a lot in there. I'm sure we've all had a chance to read it. And Ruth is correct. There are obligations that we are committing to by agreeing to that. But I think it should come back to a more fulsome discussion.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Unless we want to do it tonight, but we shouldn't just receive correspondence, is what I'm saying.
That's what I'm suggesting. It is a lot of information. I'm suggesting we bring it back as an agenda topic, so we can talk about it.
Well, new business is almost the last thing, so let's not do that. Why don't we just?
Is it a time sensitive response?
How about we just draw a new heading called special business?
Is it time sensitive, Ruth?
Sometime before the end of this term of council would be good.
So it can come back to another meeting.
And I think, I mean, the village has been, as it says in the letter, a participant and an original signatory to the Howe Sound Community Forum principles for 20 years. So if there's any questions or context that you need, maybe you need more time for that, but yes, soon, sooner than later. Thanks.
But I think we should bring it back.
Bring it back to another.
Okay,
I would suggest, I leave the committee of the whole is probably a better way to do it, even if it's part of a regular meeting, so that Ruth can participate actively.
so on this assignment, so if that's fine, we'll pass on it this evening and make it a more fulsome discussion in the very near future and allow you to participate at a lengthier piece, if that's fine with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Good evening. Mr. Tredsky, back to you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of questions. And I would like to start with the request to be informed about some kind of a short report or summary of results from in-camera meetings. I think we taxpayers and we entitled to know at least a summary of those 2 meetings, every council meeting, that are behind our backs. So please provide us with at least summary of those results. Would like to also ask you please to reply to our previous request to provide a list of all committees that you participate in. You agreed previously it is a matter of public knowledge, so please be so kind to offer us this information. There is no Google to go and Google it out. You possess the information, and we will appreciate the list of committees, all of them that you reside on. And the other question I have is on the matter of our current administrator. To best of our knowledge, he comes to work twice a month. Recently, he informed us that he comes to Lions Bay office twice a week. If that is the case, please tell us what days and hours is he available in Lions Bay office, because wherever we come there to see him, he's absolutely not in Lions Bay. So is there some official hours? We pay good wages to the fellow. Can we know when is he available in Lions Bay? COVID area is over. Let's be reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tredsky. I'm afraid my hearing wasn't so good on the first question.
I didn't quite catch the first question either, but it's been recorded. The second question with respect to.
I can tell you what the first question was.
A list of committees.
Mr. Tredsky was asking for a list of committees that.
No, that was the second question.
Oh, the second.
Yeah.
I'm ready to answer that one, but the
First
first
thing
one I
about the
did.
2 meetings or summary report.
Just a second, Mr. Tredsky.
Summary of our in-camera meetings.
Could you repeat your first question, Mr. Tredsky?
In-camera meetings are kept away, a lot of village happening, and some form of at least 1 sentence summary what happens at that meeting and what are the results would be appreciated. Many residents are completely astonished with 2 separate meetings every council meeting, and we are in the dark.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tredsky. On the first question, council reports out, I report out at the conclusion of every public meeting what occurred that we can release to the public from the in-camera into the public portion. So that is the answer on that. It's in every agenda minutes. On the second one, on the different committees that I sit on, for all of the village committees, I'm an what's the term, CEO, a ex officio member. So I am a member of all committees in the village. In terms of TransLink and on Metro, I am on the Mayor's Council in TransLink. I am on the Finance and Governance in TransLink. And in Metro, I'm on the Board of Directors, the Mayor's Council as well. I'm also on the Climate Action Committee. I'm on the Indigenous Committee. I'm on the Electoral Area A Committee, and I'm on the Pacific Parkland Foundation Committee. I'm also on, separate from the Board of Directors, I'm also on the Mayor's Committee. And the third question I believe you had to do is about CAO DeJong's time in office. And
Yep. Generally speaking, Mr. Shredsky, I'm in the office in the village on Tuesdays, every Tuesday, and then either a Thursday or a Friday, depending on what's happening that week. The rest of the time, I'm working remotely from home and putting in well over 40 hours a week, more like 50 or 60 generally, what all of the management staff are putting in these days and have been for the last 6 years. The exception to that would be if I'm on holidays. And so I have taken a couple of holidays in the last couple of months, and we'll be taking a little bit more time off next week and part of the week of following. So, yeah.
Could you explain the structure for coverage? in
Thank
your
you. So Thursday, what time? 8 to 5 p.m.?
No, generally it's more like 10 to 6.
10 to
Generally
6.
speaking, yeah. But I do require appointments to be set if somebody would like to come in and speak about something or come in and see me about something. Yeah, appointments are desired. Thank you.
And I guess to conclude, CEO, to John, that in your absence, though you do have other executive in the office, usually during normal business hours, that are able to contact you if it's that urgent.
Yeah, and I do still receive emails, and if it's really urgent, then I'm able to respond. If we have an emergency, I would be acting as soon as possible and assisting the emergency program coordinator, for instance. In my absence on a holiday, generally speaking, the CFO was the acting CAO. And Mr. Jaffer also was always ready to pitch in as well. So we cover all the bases and cover each other to make sure that the village's interests are always protected.
Thank you very much, CAO. If there's another speaker, please come forward. Thank you, Mayor Broughton. You're unmuted, so you've got the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have 2 items. Both of them, I'm asking for public consultation as has been promised. So the first item is the Lions Bay Connector. So it was promised at the Strategic Planning Committee of December 2019 that public consultation would happen prior to anything going ahead. I know Council passed the project about 2 weeks following, but again in January when I came forward, or let's say January, February, my recollection is that again it was brought forward because it was passed, and again the assurance was given by Mayor, CAO, and Council, I don't know who all, but certainly the heads, to have public consultation first. So any kind of design should not occur before public consultation. That is not part of what our OCP process is. The second item is I was called to ensure that I was looking at the beach design. Now I was going to look at where it said here. I hadn't yet. I went on, to my surprise, there is no, and I don't know if each councillor knows this, there is nothing to do with the washrooms, nothing to do with upgrading the beach washrooms. Then when I looked, let's start with the large playground. The large playground was installed, and if it was, needed replacing, then fine, but it was installed during my time as a result of the public gathering together and envisioning. But the one platform that's in question, that company is still in business. It can be purchased and replaced. Secondly, the washrooms need to be done. They're not in the project. Thirdly, the fence doesn't need to be done. Maybe there's fence posts that need to be done, but we do not need to raise a fence for a dear friend of mine, Ken Walder, who owns the marina. He doesn't need that fence raised. But the people of Lions Bay needs the fence not to be raised. That is their view corridor. The Lorry Beck, the poles just need to be cut off the end. It's a maintenance issue. Those poles were hewn in Lions Bay. The Lorry Beck barbecue area is important to Lions Bay. It's intact except for those end poles. So again, council may not know what part of it has rot on it and how much, but it can just be cut away. The staircase, which has landscape bricks, is intact, but there are a couple of stairs that need the surround replaced. Again, it's wood maintenance. And I've had so much work done on my property that when I look at that one rock, excuse me, there, oh, am I out of time?
Yes, you are, but wrap it up.
Okay, I think that it's so important, council, that those two projects have community input and that everything needs to stop before that, until that community input has occurred. And with the Little Children's Playground, an advisory group, which would be wonderful. I'd certainly be pleased to sit on it along with parents of all ages, but little ones, of course. But there's the wonderful things happening in the playscape world.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Broughton, for articulating those two requests. CAO, I think there's a couple of points.
Yep.
Do you want to do it now or do you?
Sure.
Okay.
I can provide more detailed information as a follow-up, but just off the top, we're just in the process of doing the RFP to get civil concept drawings done so that we have something that we can bring to the residents for consultation and just sort of the high level concept as to what the project is. And all the aspects of it.
This is the connector project.
For the connector, yeah. For the Lions Bay Beach Park design, that is gone out to RFP for architecture and landscaping pursuant to the preliminary design drawings that were done very high level, obviously, as you know. After much consultation, went through the whole process with the committee that was formed to provide all the input for the project for I don't know how long that went on for, but yeah, as I say, we can provide more detailed follow-up if you like.
I'd ask that the mayor and council vote to stop that RFP because without community input, no design can happen. There has only been one person who's requested this project, with all due respect, Councillor Cunliffe, at this point, and community has to be consulted before anybody does a concept design. That doesn't even make sense.
Sorry, can I just ask a question? Sorry, Mayor Broughton, I'm just curious, what would you present at this public meeting?
Well, I wouldn't present anything.
No, I'm asking as a conceptual question. If you invite the public, what are you going to show them? What are you going to ask them for input on? I'm just curious.
Oh, I see. What would council? I think council would say, this is how this came about. What would you conceive? Where you might present where you're envisioning it going, and don't spend any money until you've done this. Where would you envision it going? And having the community input. I would say on-site visits are brilliant because they allow you to go, okay, well, let's wind it through here or whatever. But it can't be a sidewalk down a street. That's not, a raised sidewalk down a street. So I'd say stop, look, and listen, please, because you're going to get a really enriched outcome by having the community input. So thank you very much, Councillor Barmier, for asking that. That's what I would suggest, that you say what literally the general concept, and then here's some approaches, and then book another meeting. These meetings are, let's say, at least 3 meetings.
Thank you very much for your advice, Mayor Broughton.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Welcome.
All right, I think we've answered all, but CIO, if you could touch base with Mayor Broughton again on some of the final points and where we are.
Thank you.
And where our legislation stands on that too. Thank you very much.
And it looks like Michael likes to say something.
Michael, is your hand up?
Yeah.
Unmute, please. You are live.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Council is made up of very nice people, and because you're nice people, I'm sorry that you were acclaimed and were deprived of the opportunity to share your vision with the community and were deprived of the opportunity to hear the vision for Lions Bay from the community. While you were acclaimed, you did swear an oath of office, and which, as I recall, was that you would do your best for the best for the people of the village of Lions Bay. One of those things is that it's a sacred trust that you were given, was to use your wisdom and how to spend the money of others. I'm concerned that you're not doing your best if you're not listening to the community, not keeping promises, and not doing everything in your power to get the most for the families of our village. You promised to have meaningful consultation and have not done so in the village connector and also the beach park upgrade. You've hired project managers, presumably tell us what we need without asking us and having us pay for the pleasure. Anyone who has voted for a 6.5% increase in taxes this year, and also the 10% infrastructure surcharge, both of those are unacceptable in the environment that we're in. And I'm wondering if council is aware of the impact of the 31% assessment increase in terms of how many villagers have been put in a position of paying the education surcharge. So I'm very concerned that there's an environment of incredible inflation going on at this point in time. Families are now being expected to, and workers are expected to return to the workplace at sky-high gas prices. And what the environment is such that the village should be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I'm very concerned about the fact that the tax increases have been really significant at the same time as they're for projects which which residents do not appear to want, or do not appear to want in how they have been presented. So I ask that you put the request for proposals on hold on in particular the connector and the park project until meaningful consultation has occurred. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your participation this evening. That'll conclude the public portion of the meeting, and we'll move on to item number 6. And that'll be review and approval of minutes of prior meetings. And the first piece of business is that the regular council meeting minutes of May the 17th be approved as circulated. Councillor Barmere, will you put that forward?
Yep.
Councillor Cunliffe, will you second?
Second.
I have no changes, additions, deletions. Does anybody else?
I had this one on page 9. It's not so much a deletion as I don't think so we got this is about the Ocean View land options, and we've got discussion points and shoot on, and then the last discussion point, it says agreement and no further action will take in pending direction from new council. I feel that was the decision, not really that discussion. That way everyone else recalled it, and it shows it should be recorded as the decision we made. Maybe it's not one of the bullets, so where we normally make, we didn't actually put a resolution and vote on something. But I think we did make that decision. I'd just like to be clear that was the decision, not just part of the discussion. If that's the way everyone else called it.
Councillors, speak up.
Not sure if I'm following.
So typically we would write the minutes if there is a resolution and decision, it's recorded as what the resolution was and the decision. At that meeting, that last bullet where it says agreement that no further action will be taken pending direction from a new council. I believe that was the outcome and the decision of all the discussion.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to just another discussion point. I'm just asking, is everyone else record it that way?
That's the impression that I was under.
Take the bullet point away, subsection it down. That would work.
That would work. Read that an agreement.
I agree. On behalf of council, CEO, if you could make that amendment. It just makes the decision.
Yes, I'm just wondering.
No changing in a wording.
Were you looking for?
Oh,
You guys all forgot about me. No, absolutely not. My name's James Mole. Some of you know me. I own the property at 385 Timbertop. I'm working to get permitting in to build a house on it, as well as a cabin. I'm not quite sure if that's being talked about, but I thought I would come. If there was questions to be answered, I'd be happy to do that. Otherwise, I'm happy to.
there's a section coming up that will be of tremendous interest for you.
I will sit here and make questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Villagers usually aren't so quiet, Mr. Mall. Thank you very much.
But the first one, post-COVID.
So let's conclude this piece. CEO, are you catching the grip of this just to change the bullet point subsection?
So it took me a while to find the appropriate the agenda. So
Page 9, 8A, 1 discussion, last bullet point.
and sorry, what are we doing with the last bullet point?
Just take the bullet point away, drag it down with a space, and there's the decision that was achieved.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Councilor, any other changes, amendments, deletions? There being none, call a motion. All those in favor as amended, please confirm saying yes.
Yes.
Carried, thank you. Next one. And this is the special meeting and the regular council meeting minutes of May 31st, 2022 be approved as circulated. Councilor Abbott, will you put that forward?
Put that forward, yeah.
Councilor Barmer, will you second?
Yep.
There you go. Councilors, any additions, changes, deletions, amendments?
I don't.
There being none, call a motion. All those in favor of the minutes as recorded, confirm by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes, carried. Thank you. Next is the business arising from the minutes. I had one, and I'm sure we had the same one, and that's a response to Greg and Dunn, which he wrote a very articulated letter, and I know that staff was working on it, but it may not have been concluded. It's some places with council that staff is working on it. I would suggest that we do a response to Mr. Dunn in the unfinished business. So I guess that'll be item number 250 in the next meeting. Is that fine with council?
I had the same one.
Well, there's more to this. I mean,
I mean, I would like this to see this on the unfinished business, and maybe it's going to sit there for a long time until we have some sort of conclusion about it.
that was
Yeah.
my view exactly, and that's why I put it there.
Yeah, because we talk about it and then we get nothing or some math excuse, and then it falls off the radar again.
As everyone observed as I did, I saw 15 people on their knees cleaning our boulevard in the last week down the main thing. And if they're prepared to do that, let's get an answer on the other one. So I know staff's working on it, and if that's fine with you, Works Manager and CAO to conclude it for the next meeting, that'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Any other business arising from the minutes? Councilor Abbott, do you have any?
No, I do not.
Councilor Barber, anything?
No.
Councilor
No.
Gillard? I'll presume a no from Councilor Bain. Thank you very much. Call a motion. All those in favor of the minutes as approved, as submitted. Confirm by saying yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Carried. Sorry, that was the business arising from it. God, losing track here. We did approve those. Good. Thank you. Now to the unfinished business. Public Works Manager on the crossing. I presume nothing there going on just yet.
We've gone out for quotes for the engineering.
Thank you very much. And when are they expected back?
Next week, I believe, midweek.
Thank you very much. And then the next item is the CO is the CN vegetation program.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Nothing to report. Good. BC Forest. Service Spring. Actually, it's BC Timber Sales Spring. If I've got this right.
Yep.
Thank you. Could we make the amendment? And I was to follow up with Metro, which I have today. And I spoke with the commissioner for Metro last week, and I've sent items to him today. and circulated among staff and council. And significantly, the long story short is to recap where we are with the minister, which is nowhere. And I'm enlisting Metro to act on our behalf. The people that are opposed, which is our colleagues in West Vancouver, were affected, but we're uncoordinated. And Lions Bay has simply no voice to speak of. West Vancouver, barely a voice. But I would think the federated municipalities of Metro have a considerable voice. So I've asked Commissioner Dobrovolny to review the situation and substantially to intercede on all of our behalf to deal with the ministry and come back to us. And I'll advise everybody where it is, and depending on what his response is, we'll hold Minister Conroy in abeyance for the time being. That's for me. Any questions on that? Anybody? Okay, it's an issue. Next piece, Public Works Manager, Mr. Mayor Burr. I think we've answered his questions, but if you could bring us all up to date where we are with that.
Yes, so I have responded to former Mayor Burr, and without further specific questions, there's not much more I can add. A quick synopsis of where we're at is significant deterioration of some of the bridges was identified this winter. Structural bridge engineers were engaged to review that and have recommended that urgent repairs be carried out. The repair methodology will be prepared by structural bridge engineers, and it will go to BC Bid to ensure we have the most competitive price that we can get on the market. Other than that, I really don't have any more to add to that, Mayor Burr or Mayor McLaughlin.
Thank you very much. Since he has written, do you mind dropping Mayor Burr a note that the matter is deemed concluded? I don't believe council has.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you very much. Next piece is responses to Mr. and Mrs. Lund regarding the camera at Brunswick, and I know that's been done. Thank you very much, Public Works Manager, for the detailed response on that. And there we go. And I have responded to Mr. Barber regarding the development of the Ocean View lands. Okay. And I think that concludes that piece of unfinished business. And we've already talked about adding Mr. Tan on to that next point. Brings us to the next piece, which is staff report. This is item A1, and this is a request for decision with respect to community amenity contributions, interim policy number 2201, and that's on page 19 of your packages. And I will put forward the motion to get us going that the community amenity contributions interim policy number 2201 be adopted. I'll put that forward. Councillor Bromere, would you second me? Yep. There you go. CAO, if you could give us the synopsis and the ultimate intent of why you wanted to do it.
Okay, so previously there was a draft community amenity contribution policy that was drafted and discussed with both the previous council, and I think it came to this council early days. It attempted to address the, as you see here, the idea of what a community amenity contribution is for, you know, where you've got zoning or density provisions in your zoning bylaw. There are opportunities to have small increases in density bonus in what is permitted. There's specific provisions in our zoning bylaw that was adopted by council in 2017 around cottages. You know, if your property is greater than a particular size, then you're eligible to apply to have a cottage on your property without subdividing it. And so similarly, you know, to change your RS1 to a duplex, for example, in accordance with the references in the OCP, that would be another example of an application that could be made. And these things are basically forms of upzoning one's property and adding value to it. Similarly, the previous draft of the policy included provisions with respect to, if you wanted to rezone from RS1 to multifamily, or if you were looking to subdivide your property because it was beyond a certain size and it was capable of subdivision. Again, the zoning bylaw provides an opportunity to do that where an amenity is offered by the applicant in accordance with the policies adopted by council. These policies ultimately should be incorporated into the OCP, but in the interim, because of the fact that, we're, I think, probably a ways away from any kind of significant types of rezonings or applications of that sort. In the interim, we do have a backlog of residents who are very interested in pursuing an additional cottage on their property as provided for. So what's lacking is a policy of council to deal with that kind of an application and how it's treated and what kind of an amenity would be expected in respect of that kind of an application. What I've done is I've taken out all of the major rezonings, the rezoning to multifamily, other than a duplex, the subdivision opportunities, and the more substantive ones where we've got really a much greater discussion, I think probably needs to happen before you're there. But with respect to cottages and duplexes, which are both provided for in the zoning bylaw and in the OCP, what we're lacking is a policy. So you've got a draft policy here that is limited to those two particular types of applications. With respect to cottages, the recommended policy states that with respect to increases in density resulting from to accommodate a cottage per section 7.3.2 of the zoning bylaw, the target of entity contribution would be development permit registration of a covenant to prevent further subdivision of that cottage. Plus a target amenity contribution of $100 per square meter of floor area of the cottage, or an amenity of similar value. So for example, if you maxed out on the floor area permitted for a cottage, that's 115 square meters, or about 1,200 square feet roughly. So that would be, well, actually it's 11,500. So it's about 1,150 square feet.
No, you were right the first time.
Pardon?
You were right the first time.
Okay.
Original effect is 10.7.
Similarly, with respect to rezoning for a duplex, target amenity contribution would be $100 a square meter of the maximum permissible floor area of the duplex building on the rezoned land, or an amenity of similar value. So for example, if you built a duplex that was in the neighborhood of 371 square meters at $100 a square meter, you'd be looking at an amenity contribution of $37,100 or something of similar value. And specifically noted here that greater densities through rezoning or subdivision are being specifically deferred to a future council, along with consideration of policies related to georisks and safety thresholds with respect to densification greater than that covered by this policy. So it's labeled interim policy 2201. It would be expected that along with a discussion, more robust discussion that the community would have with respect to the OCP, that further discussion would be held with respect to community amenities pertaining to any applications that resulted in greater densities, multifamily or subdivisions that resulted in higher degrees of density. So this is just limited to cottages and duplexes.
Thank you very much, CAO. I'll respond first, then we'll go clockwise from my left. in response to Councillor Cunliffe, Councillor Barner, and Councillor Abbott, and Councillor Bain. If you wish to participate, you can text me and I'll make sure you're in the location. If not, we understand why. Firstly, thank you very much, staff, for bringing this forward, and I recognize it's a result of several residents whose property is of a certain size capable of relatively nominal residential expansion. And just until this facilitates going forward for a relatively few number of residents, I concur with the recommendation as it facilitates low increased density, transition housing, age-in-place housing, opportunities to live with family members, and also the potential for increased rental opportunities. I find that the size of the suggested expansion and the fee scale demonstrated, I find that reasonable, and I'm supportive of this recommendation. Councillor Cunliffe.
Well, I'm kind of curious as to why are we requiring a fee structure? Somebody, it's not like there's a developer coming in here adding a chunk of housing stock that is changing the spectrum of the community. This is somebody, if someone tore down their house and started over from scratch, we're not asking them for $100 a square meter. So why in this scenario are we? I need to understand that.
So what's provided for in the zoning bylaw is, for example, without tearing down your house, if you've got a property of sufficient size in accordance with the bylaw, you can apply to add a cottage.
Oh, no, that I understand. I also don't understand because, for example, I have a very flat buildable lot that probably is just shy of the threshold to add a cottage. So I would want to look at that in the future as changing, because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. But this isn't a developer, this is just a resident who is adding a cottage. So what do they need to contribute back to the community? Why are we asking them for money is I guess what
Well, because you're enabling them to increase the permitted density as to what they can build on their property. Everybody else is restricted to what's in the zoning bylaw. So if the zoning bylaw provides for a 35% floor area, then you might, if you got a 10,000 square foot lot, then you're going to be limited to 3,500 square feet. And maybe that's not going to be enough room to perhaps have your adult kids come and live with you on your property because they kind of need their own space, or for you to downsize without getting rid of your property. Maybe you want to live in a little cottage on the land. But it provides additional opportunities. It increases the value of the land and the properties.
which then they would be paying for in increased property taxes. So I can appreciate if somebody wants to come in here and put in 12 townhouses and they're going to change the landscape of someone's neighborhood, and now they need to create a green space or do something, provide something back to the community because they are simply here to make money. But somebody putting a cottage onto their own house, their house might fall under that threshold of the buildable maximum area anyway. I'm just trying to wrap my head around why we're collecting this money and what are we using it for?
Well, the reasons or the purposes for which the money can be used are set out with the policy. So there's a list of community amenities, and they can be added to as desired by council. There's sort of a catch-all at the end. Those of a similar nature that council wishes to add to the list. But sort of maybe the duplex is an easier one to sort of talk about the rationale. Basically, what it allows for is an increase in density and an increase in the value of the land that then would otherwise be permitted. And the reasons for allowing that are to enable all kinds of things that are identified in the OCP
and I see all of this here. I mean, construction of a transit shelter, but why would a resident who's just changing their lot into a duplex be responsible for construction of transit shelters. Like that seems to me like these seem appropriate for a developer. It just seems like very two different things. Is this,
Well, a resident.
we're painting the same brush?
A resident can be a developer and people can come in and buy properties and demo the house and build a new house and a cottage. So,
I guess it's a
they're-
different scale of development is what I'm trying to get at here. So,
It's admittedly, this is low density, but it's increases in that low density that are presently permitted. So, or presently unpermitted. So you're permitting something that isn't currently permitted. It's adding value to the land. And in every other municipality in the Lower Mainland, they all have similar schemes that apply across the board. And these
so this
rates
is
are
typical
similar to
in
what
other,
you find in other areas like, and even up the sea to sky in Squamish, for example. So it's an accepted practice. It's a recognition that, you're enabling someone to basically adding value to the land and saying, well, if we're going to permit you to increase density, increase the value of the land and the thing and what you can build on it, then the municipality ought to have some compensation in respect of doing that. The list of things is not the developer choosing which thing they're going to develop.
no, I see that would be a
It's up to-
decision
up to
that we would
council.
make.
And it would be a reserve that would be separated from all other funds, so can only be spent in respect of the amenities that are listed as identified here or as added to, but that's more or less the rationale is
So it is,
recognition that
it is a
you're.
practice in most other
Yeah,
communities.
yeah, and it's, council's often talking about looking for other ways to raise funds for the community to address infrastructure or amenities that are needed or desired without having to tax residents for it. So this is one of the avenues in which municipalities try to achieve that purpose.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bromner?
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one a little bit, I have to be honest. My sense of the root of community contributions has typically been large developments where the neighborhood makes concessions. They lose something, they lose the view, maybe they lose a certain level of peace and quiet. The scale at which community contributions strike a chord with me is much bigger than what's in this proposal. So that's kind of where I'm starting from. So now I'm asking myself the question, what's the benefit and what's the drawback to a local resident improving their property? And I actually think their investment in the community, so their willingness to spend money on property within the community is an investment and it's a contribution. I would argue that their offering of alternate or additional living space, either to family or people that work in the village that need a more reasonable place to rent, or the firefighters, or whatever alternative means of accommodation we can provide, to me, that's also an investment in the community. So these contribution fees, at least at the rate that they're currently in this policy, they feel punitive to me, and they feel like these numbers, I look at this number and I'm like, fuck, like I don't want to spend another $37,000 just to build a duplex. That feels like a deterrent, at least at that scale, right? At the scale that we're talking about here, which is single family residential, possibly a duplex. So I'm struggling with the number. I recognize that some contribution should be made. And I definitely don't think we should be incurring costs, staff time to process these applications, to review, the application, that should be covered. But $100 a square meter, it feels rich. I'd be comfortable with $10 a square meter and these numbers being, $11.50 and $37,100. Those would be numbers that I could digest. And the reason I say that is because I feel very strongly that people that are willing to invest in the community and create alternative means of accommodations, that right there is a contribution to the community. So that's my perspective.
In brief, You believe in the concept, but you don't believe in the fees.
Yeah, I think the fees are too high.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott.
My first thought or first observation is that I don't think we should be talking about this. I think no different to the DPAs or the Ocean View from the last meeting. This goes back 5 years from before this council. This council has sat on it for whatever reason for the best part of 4 years, and with 3 meetings left to the next election, we want to try and make it happen. We should have done it much earlier. We should have got some input from residents. So I don't even think we should be talking about it, to be honest. However, given what 2 previous councillors have said, I did put a slightly different point of view on one aspect of it, and I'll focus on a few aspects. But the aspect, Peter, this is just low density small increases, doesn't really stand. I don't think this is being well thought through. It doesn't really stand if you look at the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw gives you 2 possible zonings, residential, RS1, RM1. RS1, you can add a cottage and you have a FAR of 3.35. RM1, you can add a duplex or a townhouse. Both have different definitions, but there's no difference in the rules for either.
So
And the FAR is 0.65.
yeah.
So let me just finish.
Sorry.
Okay, let me finish in 5.65. So if I got zoned that now to build a duplex, I could build a very, very large piece of property on my land or anyone's land. Someone's land with anything just under the subdivisible number of about 1,500 square meters could actually put, I worked out, 6 residences on it under that zoning. So now you're going to tell me you're going to change the zoning before we do this and change the zoning bylaw. Now I'm even less comfortable. If you think you need to change the zoning bylaw in order to make this happen, that we're going to get that done in the next 2 meetings.
So the intent would be that you have a policy that applies to duplexes only. It doesn't apply, so the opportunity isn't there to do anything more than a duplex.
But I can
Yes,
build a
yes.
duplex of 0.65 FAR.
Yeah, that's right, a duplex, but not a multiplex. So you're talking about like 6 units? No, you can't do that. You only have a duplex.
You know,
It could be a total of, let's say the property is 10,000 square feet, it could be 6,500 square feet.
Okay, so
But the zoning,
okay,
it's an application for a rezoning.
bulk of our properties are more than 15,000 square feet in the central part of Lions Bay, some of them close to 20,000, even bigger, right? So you're telling me that someone's going to be able to build a 13,000 square meter duplex, 2 duplexes of 7,000 square feet. That is a monstrosity of a structure. How can that not be impactful? You can't do it under that zoning.
So the application would be for a rezoning to a duplex. And so it would not be an RM1, it would be an RM1 duplex. You basically limit it to a duplex.
But at 6.5 FAR.
So, yeah, I grant you that at the present time, that's the
Even if you
FSR
even
that
if you only got
applies,
2
so-
front doors, you're building a complex that's massive, even if it's only got 2 front doors. So it's not well thought through. The zoning bylaw does not allow for duplexes to be treated the same way as single family residential the way it's written. And so for that reason, I'm concerned. So we'd have to change the zoning bylaw somehow. And I'll get back to my original point. You know, these DPAs were on the very first handwritten note that the mayor gave us at the very first meeting we ever had. He took a photo of his phone and sent it to us. Here we are, almost 4 years at the end of our term, and we've done nothing about it. And we think it's reasonable to try and get these changes done in the next 2 meetings. I think we're doing the public a disservice by doing that. We should have been doing this a long time ago if we thought that this council term was going to do this. And I think it falls in the same category as DPAs, those of you lot, that we're that close to another council, let's do it right.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bain, if you're ready to go, please speak.
Yes, I am. Thanks. I have a question first, and then 3 possible points after that. The first question is, do I understand correctly that the reference in the first paragraph after key information regarding geosafety threshold policy you're not advocating that in this. Is that correct?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that this can be addressed without addressing that other topic. Because this is limiting, a very small limitation or restriction on the increase in density that we're talking about. So I don't think it's of sufficient magnitude that it would impact issues, questions, and considerations that are part of that other discussion. Which is why, in all honesty, I'm sorry that I didn't bring this forward sooner as an interim policy, one which could be discussed on the basis of simply cottages and duplexes. That really only came about because of the increased number of people who are pressuring to have something, some sort of consideration of this opportunity. Previously, as I said, it was wrapped up as a much bigger policy encompassing all those other sorts of larger rezonings that Councillor Barmeyer was referencing. So, yeah, the objective here was to try to address the requests that have been coming in from residents. One of them is here tonight, and looking for an opportunity to restrict the scope of the consideration to this small scale of density increases and what might be an appropriate policy to deal with that. So that's why it's here.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to clear that one up. Then my points is that we're taking more money out of the residents' pockets. And the argument is that they're gaining value by what they're putting in. But similar to Councillor Cunliffe and Councillor Barmeyer's comments, we're overlooking the fact that on one hand, when they do this increased size, they're adding value to the tax roll in the form of increased taxes from the same lot. And for the ones that are bringing in a smaller housing unit as well, like making a duplex that's more affordable for some people, possibly, they're adding value to the community, which it seems to me that they're being penalized by getting a community amenity charge by doing the community a benefit. Granted, the resident would be getting a benefit as well, but it's a tangible way that people can contribute. For example, if they wanted to rent out to a firefighter or something like that, that's something that we've had as a priority. And I wouldn't want to discourage people from doing such a thing by having to pay another, I don't know, $1,100 or whatever the dollar would happen to be there. So that's my 2 bits worth, and thanks for your time.
There we go. We'll go around. We'll go in reverse order. Now they've got a second. Councillor Bainey of sounding robust. I will bring this back to me to pull this together and give staff direction. So I'll give you one more chance, Councillor Bain, if I can ask the questions. You're not opposed to the proposal on subdividing for density and carriage houses for the sake of argument, but the fee aspect of the fees is what disturbs you. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, if I've got your interpretation correctly, it's a legislation that shouldn't be here, period. And you disagree with density, and you disagree with the fees. In brief.
I don't think we should be trying to resolve it now because it hasn't been well thought out and we haven't had public input. The other thing I disagreed with is this idea that a 0.65 for townhouse is somehow low impact. It's a 13, on a typical lot, it could be as much as like a 13,000 square foot structure. It is absolutely monstrous. So anyway, that's the reason why the Bible is the same the way it is.
Thank you.
But actually, I think we should all be taking much more time to get this right.
Thank you for your point of view. Councillor Barmeyer, if I've got this correct, you're not opposed to what's being proposed. It's the fees that bother you.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is a contribution to the community making that investment. It's a contribution to the community to offer alternate housing options. The FSR to go from single family zoning to RM, let's call it RM duplex, that 0.65 number, that is a good point. We do need to talk about that. But I don't think that it scuttles the whole discussion. I just think it's something we need to talk about.
Thank you very much. Does it scuttle you in terms of making a decision tonight?
Well, we should all talk about it.
Okay, because you'll see where I'm going in a second. Councillor Cunliffe, if I got this right, you're in favor of the concept of the subdivision in terms of carriage homes and duplexes to expand community space, but as you pointed out first, it's the fee things, and you asked the questions. That's the part that you're in disagreement with.
That, and I do echo some of Neville's sentiments that we have asked for this from the beginning of our first strategy session, and it is being brought last minute. My question is there not a way? I also respect the fact that there are residents that are trying to get things done. Do we have to have this in place to approve a permit for someone to have a cottage if it's already under a zoning bylaw that they're able to do so?
The bylaw specifically requires it to be in accordance with council policy. It's only permitted under council policy for community amenity contributions. That's the way the bylaw reads.
So kind of a rock and a hard place.
So when the discussion was had at the time of the adoption of the zoning bylaw, and it was discussed at the public consultation, and there was a pre-meeting, and there was also a public hearing. There was a lot of discussion about a lot of the different aspects of the zoning bylaw, including this provision, and it was discussed quite a bit. And it was recognized that yes, there's a benefit to increasing the tax base by increasing the values that people are able to bring to their property, and in some cases to provide additional dwelling units and housing that wouldn't otherwise exist. So that was recognized, but it was also recognized that doing this, it provides added benefit and opportunity to the property owner or developer, and it is an accepted and comparable means. You know, the idea was to come up with something that was reasonable, clear, transparent, set out in a policy, and that applies across the board. And so it's an alternate means to raise money for the community, to get something back for providing people with that opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have. Notwithstanding that, yes, there's other additional benefits besides the money that would come in via the contribution. So yeah, that discussion was held. It's just, you know, it was a much bigger ball of wax at the time.
How much public engagement was there?
Well, it was very, very well attended public hearing, and I can't remember the details in terms of a pre-meeting or whether that was
traveling a lot at that time, but I missed it. Wasn't on my radar. But
I was raising my hands because I also have 2 questions and comments. So are we gonna follow some sort of order? Or?
I didn't see your hand up.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking. I mean,
So Neville, if you could get.
I'll just wrap up on the public engagement thing. I think if there was public engagement and we're looking at this, that might have been some helpful information as well. Anyway, so.
Thank you.
So just you brought up another question, so thanks, Neville. I had 2 questions. One of them was, you know, a rezoning application would typically have a public consultation element to it. Wouldn't there be a posting on the property, and is there some sort of, as a person doing this activity of rezoning their lot, would there not be an element?
There'll be a public hearing.
There'll be a public hearing, right? So there is opportunity on a case-by-case basis for the public to get involved. So you know, this isn't a slam dunk. We decide this and all of a sudden everyone's gonna build duplexes. There is still that gate, that's that typical gate that people pass through. And the second piece, oh my goodness. No, I forgot. Sorry. I'm gonna have to I don't forget. You brought something. What did you bring up again? I don't know, but I wanted to comment on what you just said.
Councilor Farmer, I'd like you to think for a second. And in a rare situation, because we actually have one of the residents in the room that's contemplating this.
Yeah, well, sorry, that was my second point. Thank you. So my second point
It's
was
visionary.
we owe it to people that want to develop their properties and who have been patiently waiting. We owe it to them to make a decision. We need to give them an opportunity to do this. By constantly turning people away because council hasn't made a decision, we don't have a policy in place, that's got to stop.
Yeah, it should have stopped a long time
Yeah,
ago. I just don't
yeah.
know if this is the right time.
Right, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
let's-
And
Councillor Abbott.
I just want to comment on the case by case basis. And I'm focusing again on this picture in my mind of this structure that's like 13,000 square foot on my lot, because that's what it would look like. My neighbors will absolutely, I mean, have every right to be completely indignant about that. But the greater community does as well. That's not a case by case basis. That's a fundamental change to what we're allowing in density. So it's more than just a
No,
case
I
by case.
agree, we need to talk about the FSR. I agree. I agree, we need to talk about that number. We can't ignore that number because that's a very valid point. Legally speaking, we'd be opening up the door to that.
Yeah.
What I wanted to highlight is that in a rezoning application, there is a public engagement piece that's legislated. You can't get around that.
So in this case, that would apply to the duplex, but not to the cottage.
Right.
Correct? Peter? So you would need to do a rezoning to get a duplex.
Yeah.
But not a cottage.
Right.
Okay. Just to be clear, cottage, you wouldn't need, there wouldn't be any,
Thank you very much.
you need to do from that.
Yeah.
So, CAO, one question before I keep going here is that with the public consultation, community has a chance to come in and it happens, whether it's a tower or a minor development or other things that happen. Is that not, that is the role of the community to come in and give feedback using the point that Councillor Abbott has made about a development that might be deemed by the neighbors to be inappropriate for the area. So I presume the course of action that's normally the situation is that the residents come forward in the affected area, and which would be the more credible versus people that live 3 miles away, and they make their views known. The developer responds as best they would, and the meeting concludes. It then comes back to council for a decision on the zoning. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
Could I
So
just
the only-
interject and make an argument that if the example that Neville is using, that is opening up a can of worms. I feel that I would want to have input on that because then the next thing you know, most of Lions Bay looks like the British properties. And that is not staying within the character of what we have here.
The
So-
public meetings are open to all.
Okay, just to be clear that
But you're now talking about a public meeting in order to change the rezoning bylaw, not a particular, so we have to do that first, not a particular property.
Well,
We need to do that first.
I think the applicant makes the application.
Sorry, I'm going before the applicant makes the application. Give us suggesting the zoning bylaw needs to change to allow for an RS2, or whatever we decide to call it, or an RM1D, however you want to do it. But we need to change the zoning bylaw first. We need to change the zoning bylaw, we need to have significant public input into it. We can't just go do that. So, and all the readings and the meetings and the town, so before you even get this done, we'll be in an election. And some of us may and some of us may not be here. We're not going to resolve this in 3 meetings. It's not possible.
CAO, your guidance? I mean, without calling the motion, council,
can we,
So
most of council wants to proceed
Yeah.
cautiously. Most
I'll-
of council would prefer that the fee thing was reduced.
But so what I'll do is clarify, as I think about this, in terms of the demand that has come forward, it's primarily related to cottages. People aren't knocking down our doors to build duplexes. So you might want to consider limiting this exercise to cottages, doesn't require rezoning. And then talk about what the fees are. So by way of comparison to sort of similar concepts, they're not quite the same because we've gone a different direction a little bit by allowing people to build on their properties without subdividing. So you've got a range from what I looked at, just somewhere between, depending on where somebody's wanting to put it, larger municipalities have sort of priority zones as to where they want to see these things happen. So you get a range of a fee that might be 6,000 in one area and 20,000 in another area. But that's the sort of range that I was looking at in terms of, and we seem to fit somewhere in the middle for a cottage. So if you felt that it was too high and wanted to come down to the lower end of that range, then maybe you put it to something like $60 a square meter or even $50 a square meter, if that's where your comfort level is. But in all honesty, I think there ought to be some price attached to the exercise. Yeah, that's one possible way to proceed. I think Councillor Abbott has raised a few things that are probably do require a bit more involvement in terms of what should a duplex zone look like. What sort of cap do you want to put on square footage that's permitted for a duplex, as opposed to other forms of multiple zoned housing. So yeah, if you want to deal with the residents that are expressing the interests and have, it's probably about 5 or 6 that are keen and some keener than others. But that might be the way to go if you want to move forward with that side of things. That would be, I think, the only suggestion that I would have at this point in the conversation.
Well, I would be more comfortable having this directed at cottages only at this time.
That would take a variety of the issues out of play.
And revisiting, I mean, the numbers, especially, yeah. It's putting a cottage is not adding an extra real burden onto the community. Like you said, just disturbing the peace and tranquility of the neighborhood is not really a factor. So.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bromere.
Yeah, I like that compromise. I like the idea of revisiting the duplex thing more fulsome. I think we owe it to people that have been waiting patiently to get something in place. And if it's, like you said, largely cottages, we should be able to facilitate that tonight.
Councillor Bain is away for the moment. Councillor Abbott. Further thoughts?
Following along until we facilitate tonight. So we can facilitate it tonight because we still have, so what steps do we then have? We don't have to change our zoning bylaw. All we have to do is agree a policy for CACs for cottages.
Right. And to clarify, the zoning bylaw has been in place since 2017, but we haven't had a policy in place in order for anyone to act on the zoning bylaw, which is not great.
Okay, so even if it is just cottages, I would suggest there's still some sort of public input we'd like to engage, as opposed to.
We've already passed legislation that we like carriage homes and cottages. Why would we be engaging the public for this?
The question is the CSEs. Should we be charging?
Ultimately, is if I'm gathering the room here, that the number should be lower versus higher. So if I've got a member of the public, let me guess, Mr. Moll, would you like none or would you like some? Let's guess it's none. I don't think we should have public consultation on this issue.
Well, there might be other members of the public, like the other 1,352, that think people should be paying to have a cottage because they believe that's because it's going to create potentially an extra person. It's going to take, therefore, a little bit more water, not a lot. And then the person on the roads, all of those things. And that's why some people might disagree with it. So I don't know. I'm not ready just to make that decision with that feeling how people feel.
I don't think anybody was suggesting having no fees in place. But Pam, did you?
No, I was just saying that was what I recall from the public meeting. We got quite a bit of feedback from that. We could go back and look at the minutes, but my recollection was quite a few people who actually didn't want cottages were okay with them as long as we had a fee. We felt quite strongly about the fee, actually for the reasons Councillor Abbott just said.
Do you have any recollection whether there was any suggested fees?
I think so. It was quite a few years ago.
Okay.
I remember I was in attendance. It was very well attended. A lot of support.
When was it, 2016 or 17?
2017, I think. So would have been, I think there was at least around 75
So,
people or something.
1, 2, 3 people with it.
That's okay.
Peter gave us context. He gave us high and low value, what communities around us charge. And that's data. That's a fact. So we can work within those boundaries, and maybe we decide to start on the low end. And we can always amend the fees if people are feeling strongly about it. I think it's okay to start somewhere.
Councillors, I'm waiting for Councillor Bain to weigh in if he chooses to. We have a motion on the floor. And without going too far with my corporate officer, I could call the motion and the motion fail. And that would be fine, because I think that we've had the fulsome discussion here. So I think we've moved away from the duplex piece of this, which is, I think that's where we've gone. We're into the carriage piece, but more importantly, we don't have the research that staff had from the last time around. And perhaps now that we've kind of zeroed on this, maybe rather than moving on this right now, we should push this to the next meeting and let staff do a little bit more digging on what fees are in other neighborhoods, so that we come with a little bit of data here. Again, reading the room. The reality is that you're increasing value to people's property. So the question is, we're facilitating that value to that particular property that other ones may not be able to achieve because they're too small or whatever they are. So the question for where I'm suggesting that we take this away to the following meeting is that staff cleans this up a little bit and brings it back with some comparative information that we can then address into a more narrow topic. So I'll ask, does that resonate with you, Councillor Barmary? Is that seem
Yeah, I think if we bring it back at the next meeting and make a decision, I'm comfortable with that.
Well, the decision may be that we need to go to the public, as Councillor Abbott says, but if, but let's, I think we've got the ball rolling strongly here. So let's put it to the next meeting.
And for the two of us that weren't at the previous meeting, because there's 2 council members that weren't here in 2017, could we get a record of?
We want the whole package. Yeah, but we want, I'd like that, all of us would like that into the next piece. So Councillor Bain's going to be silent for the time being. So I think we're kind of in general, like, yes, he's saying he's silent.
No, he's saying he's speaking.
Trust me. So I think on this, my proposal is that I will call the motion in a second, and I will be voting against it. And we did directing the staff is clear. Before that, I do that in an unusual situation, Mr. Moll, who's the first person we've seen in the gallery in almost 2 years.
He's not the one. No, there was one.
Well, I thought there was one.
I think Ruth came once as well.
Yeah, okay, so you are in an
elite group.
I think, Mr. Moll, I know that I missed you in the gallery, but I told you it's going to be worth a while if you sat quiet. We're going to presume that you're going to leave shortly. And rather than waiting until the end of the piece, if you'd like to have your 2 minutes, I'd be happy to give it to you now.
Sure. I'm actually okay with the fee structure. Building a cabin is going to mean that I'm going to be taking dump trucks up the road. There's been more people living in the village. You look at Squamish right now, which has just gone expansion like crazy. They do not have the infrastructure to match. So a fee structure, I think, is fair. Now, there's the other end of the coin. I know people who are being gouged for similar things or subdivisions and to the tune of a third of the value of the property. That's close to criminal. Your fee structure relative to the cost of building the cottage is probably attuned to 3 to 5% of the cost. That's not unreasonable. So while I understand the benefit to the village, I understand the benefit to the homeowner as well. Taking a fee, I don't think is unreasonable as long as the fee is reasonable. $100 a square meter, I believe it was, didn't sound unreasonable. Changing my tune, and I was unaware of the duplex thing entirely. For my feedback on square footage, I agree that I don't want to see monster houses in this town, whether it's single or duplex. I don't understand why a duplex would have any more square footage than a single house. If you were allowed a 3,000 square foot house on your lot, you should be allowed 1,500 square foot duplex. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mall. Thank you for coming live too.
Would you like me to leave now?
No, you're welcome to stay.
I'd like to offer you a glass of water. I'd have to take
Your technical part to this as well, is that, did I, sorry, I heard someone mention it earlier and I know that there's, no?
No,
No,
That's what you do. Okay.
I think that's what you get. Thank
I will
you.
let you then.
thank you.
Thank you. And,
Welcome to stay. We're gonna have another fulsome discussion about all sorts of money.
oh yeah,
I appreciated that. Maybe it'd be great to join council, but I've got 3 kids.
Let's see. Joining council.
Mr. Mole has 2 kids at home. and-
Great. Maybe.
Sorry, forgot. Thank you very much, Mr. Mole.
I'm not crazy. I'm not at 4, but
Okay.
good night. Thank you guys.
Bye, Dave.
It's so different having people in chambers, isn't it? There you go. All right, I will be voting no. We'll call the motion. Those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
No.
Okay, motion repeated. Staff, you've got your guidance on that one. Thank you very much, everybody, for the robust discussion. And Mr. Mole for his comments. Next piece is the CAO, item number 2. And this is acceptance of the Metro 2050 Regional Growth Strategy. And the recommendation is that the Metro Vancouver Regional Growth Strategy titled Metro 2050 Metro Vancouver Regional District Regional Growth Strategy bylaw number 1339, 2022 be received for information. Item 2, the proposed Metro 2050 Regional Growth Strategy, Metro Vancouver Regional District Regional Growth Strategy bylaw number 1339, 2022 be accepted as presented pursuant to section 436 of the Government Act. And finally, number 3, that staff be directed to forward the council resolution of acceptance of Metro 2050 Regional Growth Strategy, Metro Vancouver Regional District Regional Growth Strategy bylaw number 1339, 2022 to Metro Vancouver Regional District. I will put that forward. Councillor Abbott, will you second me?
1 second.
Thank you very much. CEO.
Okay, so as set out in the report, there is the letter and the materials that go with the request that was circulated by Metro to all of the member municipalities and links to Metro 2050. I spared the trees for attaching it to the agenda. And then about as noted, attach the commentary and feedback that council previously provided to Metro when requested last November. We got that in. It addresses the goals, each of the goals of the document of the regional growth strategy, and provides commentary and ultimately support for the document. I'm not sure whether or not any additional comments are warranted at this time, or if council wishes to drill down on any of those things or provide further comment. The recommendations are as per They suggested resolutions that were put forward by Metro staff. So these are resolutions that would meet the requirements of the Local Government Act as it pertains to acceptance of a new regional growth strategies by the member municipalities. And I don't really have much more to say at this point. If there's any questions, I'm happy to oblige.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. Any questions, comments?
So Peter, so we have until, we don't know when this letter was received, we only know when it was dated or mailed. But we have until July 2nd or
I received on May 4th.
May 4th, so we have until July 5th then, I guess. Whatever, do the math, 50, 60 days. So is the intention that once we decided, we agreed to this in principle tonight, are you going to bring back an actual copy of the actual letter to the next meeting? Was that the intention?
No, if council were to adopt these resolutions, a letter would be sent to Metro with a certified copy of the resolutions that were passed by council, and that would constitute your acceptance of the document. If there are additional comments that you wish to have included in that letter, then certainly you could instruct me accordingly.
Okay, so there was previous discussion that that letter might say something along the lines of, given our current status on our request to be our regional context statement to be changed outside the entertainment boundary, we accept this the expectation that will be fulfilled, or whatever words we were going to put in. I can't remember exactly. Is that still the intention?
It could certainly be worded that way, somewhat borrowing from the language that I've used in the report, which makes it clear what the expectations of this council are in respect of how this will unfold.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would be happy with it, comfortable if that was if that's an amendment to here, or always what
I feel like we're sending a double shot over the bow, quite frankly. We're putting them on notice again.
Well, no, we said we're not going to put any hard kind of absolutes into this. We're just going to say, we know we've got something in motion, and our plan in motion aligns completely with this, and the whole world's good.
Confirm it.
And as long as the whole world's good with our new plan to be our certain language to that effect. Not if you don't give it to us, we're going to veto the whole thing.
No,
not suggesting that.
And
we do have one more meeting to see those words if we need to, as I just pointed out, because it doesn't have to go off.
I don't think that your calculation quite works out. I think it's because May had 31 days and June has 30. So we're going to be like July 3rd or something like that. So there's not going to be an opportunity to do another meeting.
That's a long weekend.
We've got a meeting on the
July 5th, right?
June 21st.
Oh, June 21st.
Pardon me?
We've got a meeting on June 21st. We've got plenty of time.
I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead.
You've got lots of time.
Okay.
My apologies.
All right. So we can do this with amended wording now, or suggested amended wording now, or push it off.
I think we just need to amend the words based on what we discussed, and we can have one last look at it in the next meeting, and there's a tweak.
All we're talking about is the cover letter under which
exactly
these resolutions would be sent to Metro. And certainly I can, you could pass the resolutions. I can bring forward the letter
and see the letter at the next meeting.
Discussion. Circulate it ahead of time if you want to.
Sure.
So well, it's going to be a package next meeting, and then we'll finalize that. Good. Thank you very much, both of you. Councilor Bromere?
Yeah, I'm leaning on council.
I think we're on the calendar. We're on the time here. Councilor Cullen?
Agreed.
Good. Call a motion. All those in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
Carried. Thank you. Next piece. Thank you very much. What's with my figuring the calendar out, by the way? What's with not figuring out the calendar? Come on. All right. I think it's a holiday thing. I don't know. All right. Next piece is the got three minor things. The first one is Lions Bay Beach Park recognition areas. One of them is the Quetzalcoatl Biosphere, and I'll ask the CAO to pull it up on screen if you've got it.
Oh, I was just gonna, you can share your screen. No,
You've got it too. You can share your screen.
I don't have it on this computer.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hang on, where are we? Are you able to do it, Peter?
You should be able to now.
You are. Okay, so how do I take this from my Outlook to Zoom?
Well, if you've got the pictures open,
I do.
then just click the share your screen button at the bottom of the Zoom window. The green one.
Green button.
Oh, share screen, okay. There we go.
You probably should need to pick up.
Okay, okay, that's indicative enough. I've got two, and this was one where I think the biosphere is thinking they would be on a rock. There's another one which is on a pedestal. All fine, all good, and I believe that we would all like to acknowledge that when the time is appropriate. But as I've said to Ruth Simons, the time is not now, because we're going to be digging up the beach park. So I think where I would like to go with this is, as we get forward on our beach park construction, that we in tandem with that look at what other acknowledgements or commemorative pieces we would be putting in there. So I'd be well, certainly be one of the first issues for the new council, but I wanted to address that. And I believe that for this council, there's a desire to do that, and I'm just confirming that. Yes, and sure. I don't know. For me, this I recognize the plaque. I also believe that certain members might be recognized as well. I'm also thinking that perhaps a more informational piece might be placed there in forms of a drum, or as they say, something more educational, how it came about, what it encompasses. Not everybody who walks down there understands what it is, and that information is easily put forward. Maybe a QR code, I don't know. So I just wanted to share that, but thank you very much, Peter, with council. And how do I take this away?
Stop sharing screen. So go back to the button.
Stop share. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I have Chrome. Thank you very much.
It's the icon on the right. Bottom right.
Oh, I think sorry, I made you the host as opposed to the co-host. I think we just killed the meeting.
No, it's bottom right. Just click on the camera. Bottom right. Very bottom.
No, on the,
Sorry, in the middle.
in the center.
Yeah, there.
There we go. Sorry. There you go.
Okay. Thank you very much. The next piece, so I will pass that on to those, and I can get part of the stuff is that the current council, I'm sure will be part of the continuum for the next one, is aware of the stuff. The next one is the neighborhood grant support, and a resident has come forward to me. I've copied it to council, and substantially what they're looking to do at Kelvin Grove Beach Park is do, this is my term, not theirs, do a doggy day meet and greet at low tide, be friendly, serve refreshments, and just open the doggy sphere for the sake of a better argument. And they've applied to a neighborhood grant foundation. I think they've got $300, which is for refreshments for visitors. So they want to do it at low tide. where it's most convenient for the doggies and for those who would come, and it'll be in the village update, inviting all and those. And what is missing in this is that it hasn't received Village Alliance-based support. So I'm asking council for their support. I'll put forward that recommendation to support this initiative. And I'd be happy to write to the residents behind the initiative that she's pursued. I have a seconder. All those in favor, please confirm by saying it. Thank you very much. Done. Thank you, councillors. Last one, a quick one, and this is Canada Day celebration. I was so pleased to announce the two new co-chairs who I understand have solicited other members and one or two of the old ones to hang on. And this Canada Day is going to be, well, it's easy to say none like we've had for the last couple of years, because that would be an easy one. But they're looking to days gone back, and I believe they're going to go old school. There'll be tables. They would like the RCMP back. They've enlisted the school children to sing O Canada. They've asked my help to assist in perhaps involving Squamish Nation, and they've got some other issues that we could do as well. So what I would do is ask the piece that staff has done in the past is if you would contact your RCMP and arrange for the officer for Canada Day. There you go. Any questions, thoughts, comments? No?
I think it might be a little lofty to think that the Squamish Nation will participate in a Canada Day ceremony.
That's for the co-chairs to find out.
Okay.
There we go. And that concludes the mayor's piece. Councillors, if you've got something you'd like to bring us up to date on, this would be the time. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Oh,
You're coming up shortly. Nothing. Committees, Climate Action Committee, and this is on the preliminary GHG assessment.
Yeah, so for a bit of background, we had been looking to apply for a Clean BC grant to retrofit or basically replace the oil burning furnace in the community hall with a heat pump. That was the intent of the initiative. And so the Climate Action Committee put in quite a bit of time pulling together the data, baseline data, things like furnace specs, meetings with electricians to visit the property, garnering window quotes, staff supported us. So quite a bit of work went into collecting that data. And what that data tells us, it tells us how many greenhouse gases we're emitting in that facility. And so part of the grant application required us to do some calculations in a certain format around GHG emissions and savings. So we hired a small consultancy called Bright Spot. We provided them with all the data that the Climate Action Committee and staff helped us pull together. And we looked at basically two scenarios. One of the scenarios we looked at was replacing the oil furnace with a heat pump. And in the event that there's a power outage using a new fireplace, so an EPA approved fireplace in the community hall to keep the hall warm. The second scenario that they looked at was replacing the oil furnace with a heat pump, but also installing a backup generator in the event that there's a power outage and the facility needs to stay warm in the winter. So what we have here is basically the calculations that came out of that. And the long and short of it is, if we replace the oil furnace, we're reducing 14.3 tons of emissions per year. And never mind the cost of oil and what it would cost to heat that facility now. So this data is simply being fed into the public record. So we have this data point. We know exactly the potential greenhouse gas reductions we can see if we replace that oil furnace. And it also helps us do some math on the cost of operating that furnace in the foreseeable future. We weren't able to pull a grant application together in time because of capital costs considerations and there being no appetite for that. But what this report offers us is some baseline data to move forward. So if another grant comes online, if there's a future opportunity, we're already armed with the greenhouse gas reduction calculations, and these are credible. These would be recognized by both the province and the feds for grant application. If anyone has any questions, it's just for information.
Thank you for information, Councilor Barmer. And the number escapes me. Forgetting about the grant aspect, do the changes that were projected, which using just the two pieces, which is the heat pump and upgraded wood stove, do you have a recollection of what the cost of that was?
So the heat pump was around 40 grand. The fireplace was around 16, so about 56. The power upgrade was a bit of an unknown. We're still working on trying to get numbers from BC Hydro on what that power upgrade would look like. But all said and done, if we didn't have a grant, we're probably looking at 100 grand with no backup generator.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So no, my recollection is, I mean, we didn't manage to get there for this grant and BC Hydro was looking to cause the problem. But
there's a few other things. There's the BC Hydro piece, and there was also a bit of agreement on scope, which I think we have to have a broader discussion about. You know, the backup generator was a significant cost, and to what benefit. So that's a question that I think we should have taken to council to discuss a little bit more.
But this is still one of the priorities of the climate action committee, assuming the next kind of grant comes around and we can see something in line.
Yeah, so the climate action committee, you know, we've pursued 3 grants. We've pursued 2 grants in the transportation sector, 1 facility grant. And we're going to keep doing that because the goal of the climate action committee is to try and get a project mobilized and try and actively reduce greenhouse gases. So that's not going to change. So we're going to keep our eye on grants that come up, and we're going to keep working with council to try and get something.
Good to hear that. It's just, yeah. I think we all want to see that.
I have to be honest in terms of our ability to get, let's say, a transportation project mobilized, like a set of chargers. It's every other community in the Lower Mainland has this kind of infrastructure. We're it's so obvious that we're kind of falling behind here. So I don't know how to get the community more on board or what we need to do, but we have to take some steps here on climate action.
And then this electrical issue. Yeah, did I send you again the name of the guy from our company who works at BC Hydro, the residents in the village?
I don't know if he did or not, but
I think I resent it. Yeah, okay. I really think this would be a worthwhile conversation with that. Okay. Because I mean, he was prepared to come. Maybe just invite him to the climate.
Yeah,
I'll just talk all things in BC Hydro. One arm of our company does 70% of BC Hydro's outsourced engineering. So you say you've got these engineers, they don't manage to do all of that themselves. They outsource some of it, and the stuff they do outsource, that group that he works for was doing 70%. Okay. So you certainly should have any of the project manager. So you should something inside, and I'll shoot you the name again on my to that. It's just in his mind.
Thank you.
I just have a question with respect to the wood waste. Is that just cords of wood that are donated by members of the community who cut down a tree or whatever? And if so, how much, where will we store it and all that?
Yeah, so this report didn't go into those details. This report made some assumptions, and one of them was in respect of the fireplace is that the wood would be sourced locally. So that we would have wood here when we do maintenance work or whatever, take a tree down on the municipal property. There is an opportunity to use local wood. And it's surprising how low the GHG emissions are on a local wood burning fireplace that meets EPA. So the report speaks to these numbers.
I guess what crosses my mind is I wonder what the numbers would look like if we went the route of like a wood pellet type of product.
We discussed that as well.
And would that substantially add to the numbers?
Yeah, so those are all questions we can put to the consultant to see if they can run those numbers through the model, but that's a good point. So Absolutely, we can.
I was thinking ease of use and storage and all that kind of stuff would
I
probably
think
be.
part of that conversation, and I did separately have a conversation with I about this, when Greg originally proposed the wood pellets. So the thing is, wood pellets is something you have to go get from someone, and hopefully they're using tree stumps and not cutting down tree to do it. A lot of wood pellets are now caused by cutting down trees, so that's a negative. The discussion here was the workshop generate a significant amount of wood, which they store and we use for bonfires. We used to use for bonfires and stuff. There should be enough wood that the workshop already has. It's already dead tree, was cut down for some other reason. And that's why it's such a better benefit on the greenhouse gas emissions, because the tree in theory is already dead. And if you do nothing with it, it's just decomposed, and over time it's going to create the same. So that's why it's a benefit.
Thank you very much. Interesting that on the community amenities, the money can be used for community use facilities like this. So let me just make that the plug for.
All right. Full circle.
Sorry, it's third reading. Just wanted to remind you. Thanks. Are you asking that we receive this?
Just for information, and if there was any questions that we want to, if you have questions, if you read it, take them up with us and we'll take it to the Climate Action Committee and we'll try and get some answers.
I'll second your motion. Call a motion. All those in favor, please say yes. Thank you. Great. And that concludes that piece. Now we're on the emergency services, which is on page 39. The very narrow stats are there. So I'll put forward the motion to receive. Councillor Cunliffe, can you second?
Yes.
That is a yes. All those in favor, please remember by saying yes. Thank you. No. There we go. Next piece is the resolution, and this is on the annual report and CAO. You need to help us out here.
Okay, let me annual that up.
It's an add-on to the agenda.
Oh, so we don't have the.
I don't know what the resolution is.
Yeah, I had intended to have this, and so with respect to the annual report, which is as of today, the draft is on our website. Has to be there for a couple of weeks, and then it will be coming to council at the June 21st council meeting. And there's a requirement for publication. Instead of advertising in the North Shore News or the Peak newspaper, what we've done in the past with respect to the annual report is council's passed a resolution for alternative means of publication, namely the village update in 2 editions. And so as per the requirements of section 94 of the charter, that's a permissible way to go. So the resolution that I'd like to put out there for your consideration is as follows: that the annual report required under section 97 of the community charter be available for public inspection at the village office and via the village website on or before June 7th, 2022. And that the annual meeting required under section 99 of the community charter be held in conjunction with the regular council meeting on June 21st, 2022. And that the notice of the annual meeting under section 94 of the community charter be by way of A, posting in the public notice posting places, and B, publication on the village website and in the village update distribution on June 10th and June 17th, 2022, as being reasonably equivalent to notice that would be provided by newspaper publication if it were practicable.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, will you put that motion forward?
I will.
Councillor Barmero, you second?
Yep.
Colleagues, any question? I think that things being posted everywhere. And the aim here versus the North Shore News is?
For me,
And why wouldn't you just simply do it in the North Shore News?
I think the cost would be upwards of $1,600.
Thank you very much. Wow.
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous.
All right. Well, I think we've got to the bottom of that one pretty quickly. All right. So I hope the residents aren't inconvenienced when they read their Wednesday North Shore News, but I think I figured this one for myself. Any questions before I call a motion? Call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes.
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 No, thank you, carried. Next piece, bylaws, and the The motion is that the Village of Lions Bay, Brunswick Beach Water System Parcel Tax Bylaw number 368, 2005, repeal bylaw number 619, 2022 be adopted. Councillor Cunliffe, we put forward that motion.
I
Thank
will.
you. I will second CAO, final reading. Anything else to add?
I don't have anything else. You might want to ask the CFO.
CFO, I think this is all news. Thank you very much. Call the motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're down to the correspondence section, which is on page 45. And let's give Council Farmer a second to gather himself.
Yeah.
Finds on a computer, it's hard.
Yeah, I've got 5 notes. If anyone else has any specific comments they want to make about the list of correspondence, you know, you're free to do that.
For me, I would accept the general correspondence as is with just received.
Okay.
If somebody wants.
Yeah, the only comment I had is on the climate action related. You know, we can take that to the climate action committee for information, but we're in good shape. You know,
Thank you.
they're advocating that small communities do what we do, and that's exactly what we're doing. Number 17, which is the Metro Vancouver networking reception, that date has already passed, so it's again just for information. On the resident correspondence, the first.
Second, nobody else wants to pull it.
Yeah, I was trying to interrupt you before you.
Oh,
So back to the first one on that report about the docks, best practices. I'm very intrigued by this polystyrene suggestion here. So basically it says that if you build a new dock, you can't use polystyrene. If you have an existing dock, you should not be using polystyrene. And existing dock is going to degrade, you should have to actually obligated to go and wrap it or remove the polystyrene and do something else. I read this report and it just happened to be in Horseshoe Bay a few hours later. And he pointed something out to me. In Horseshoe Bay, Sewell's Marina, all the docks, certainly all the docks on the side around where their new development is, are all just open polystyrene and they're all just falling apart. So I don't know, I mean, what it gets done about that, you know, through the house owned biosphere, whatever, what can be done. But it certainly needs, like, seems like some sort of additional impetus should be done on the Sewell's Marina. It's significant a number of docks and there's open polystyrene that are in some cases clearly breaking up. I don't know, maybe we should take that to the house owned biosphere and we should do then see what they think. Or I know there's none in our village, but our marina has 8 boats. Seen them up in the hard. I don't think we. No,
Yeah, if I may, through your worship, Ruth and the House Sound Biosphere have been reaching out to people who have docks and floats. And they did reach out to us about our dock, or our float, our swim float, which uses polystyrene encased in plastic. So at the time that that dock is up for replacement, we will be following the best management practices. If the current encasement of the polystyrene does crack or break, we do replace it with another manufactured part exactly the same. So until we're at that point where the wood is rotten and to the point where we have to replace it, we're going to continue with what we're doing. But they did reach out to, as far as I know, people who have docks and floats.
Okay.
So I'd be surprised if they didn't reach out to Sewell's.
Well,
is there any other example in the village now you can think about? I forgot about the swim float. I didn't think we had any that we'd.
Well, I'm pretty sure that anybody who has a float on the waterfront, and I know there are a few residences that do, they'll be using the styrofoam. And typically it's encased in a plastic cover. So it's basically a plastic vessel that they fill with the polystyrene and then allow it to expand within that.
Yeah, so those are okay, but it's when you've got the raw polystyrene, they just wrap them with some sort of tarp. Or
Yeah,
poly or
no,
there's lots of those.
Councillor, the correspondence substantially came from Ian Wynn, who's vice president of the Biosphere Regional Society. And I'm going to speculate that Diane Mitchell of Red Rock has circulated this around to the other community members. My recommendation would be, since you and your wife have observed this, why don't you just drop in a note? Said that you've observed it, maybe he could put it under his eye.
Sure.
Well, he may not know about it, so.
No, don't mind doing that.
And they have strong connections to West Vancouver.
Sure.
So if that's fine with you, might I recommend that, Councillor Berman? Right. On the resident correspondence, Councillor.
Yeah, resident correspondence, first one we addressed at the beginning of the meeting, so no further action, thanks, Nye. The second is Ms. Cox expressing concern over throwing rocks at bears. That's been received for information. That's on the record. The following is Ruth Simons, who spoke at the open mic at the beginning, and we've agreed to take that into the next meeting for discussion. So that'll come forward at the next meeting. The next one is with respect to the beach cameras. I believe that's also been closed and it was addressed at the beginning of this meeting. The second is labor costs, a report from CFO Rook. That's also been addressed. Okay, thanks. The next one is from Jay Barber with respect to the Ocean View Road development. I thought they were really great questions. Having a line of sight on public consultation on this was smart, so I appreciate that. The next one is from RNG Zimmer with respect to infrastructure funding. I also thought that was very insightful and nice to get that kind of mail from residents. So thank you.
And Councillor Brommer, with respect to Mr. and Mrs. Zimmer, I will write them and thank them for their opinions.
Thank you.
Okay, that closes.
Go ahead, sorry.
Just in terms of the House Sound correspondence from Ruth Simons, did council want to look for dates for a committee of the whole type meeting, or do you want to just us to put it on the next council meeting agenda for a more in-depth discussion with an opportunity for council to prepare for that?
I'm fine. The agendas are, we know what's on the agenda for next one. We've gone through most of our legislative stuff, having the annual report that's going to come forward. We've got some correspondence we need to deal with. We're going to talk about the CACs. I think maybe we could do it in then, unless you see some big piece that's coming down the pike that I don't.
No, but
When we devote the time for a regular meeting.
Would we break out into a committee of the whole and come back in so that we participate, or we just basically become active? I think there'll be a lot of back and forward on.
I think we could become active. This is a subject matter expert, and
Okay.
if we're fine with that, I think we can do some leeway there. Is that fine? Okay, so if you could ask for that, that's built into the agenda. To do a committee of the whole, I get why we would do it, and as Councillor Abbott's suggesting, but I'd much rather stay later if I had to deal with this.
Sorry, one other thing, with respect to the correspondence at G4 from the District of West Vancouver regarding the ECOM appointment, it occurred to me that is that something that I can't remember if we did that already or not.
I'm pretty sure we did.
I was going to bring up as well. So what we did was we did nominate
Richard
Walton to be our representative. And if you read this letter, it says, as a side to that, you also have to decide, can he vote for you, or you need to send someone to vote.
I think we said yes in that covering letter.
There's a proxy form that was in the materials from West Van, and I'm not sure that we.
I think there seems to be one more step down here.
Okay, thank you very much for that pickup. It's funny that they did, oh, well. Neither here nor there. I think this is with council's blessing. I'll confirm what staff can.
But just the council that wants to go vote for that.
I think you need to
Kind
pass
of it
a
is, but
resolution.
I've been there before, so.
But pass a resolution that either Mr. Walton can fill in his name on the proxy, or maybe as councillor.
Okay, so I'll put for the motion on Richard Walton to put his name on the proxy.
Second.
And thank you. Thank you, that was fast. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, good. Peter, can you send that on? Thank you very much. Great pickup on that one, Councillor. Okay. Brings us to the end.
Sorry, I'm just looking at some other notes, Norman, really fast, they speak once. On the basement and throw rocks, I just want to comment on that, and I will write back. That's good, everyone. Yes, we did put that out in a publication. It's a little unfortunate. A lot of the stuff we use, we take from other data and websites, and that is a common hazing tactic. And when I spoke to the conservation office, as an aside, he said use appropriate hazing techniques, and he included the throw rocks and sticks. However, the BSMart team, doesn't agree with that. It's not what we're recommending. It won't be any future of any publications, and we're not suggesting it. But it got in there because it's actually common practice, to be honest, to recommend it as a hazing technique. We agree with the resident. Certainly, no one wants to throw rocks with intent to harm, and that's not the record.
Very smart, it's not mean spirited. I think this just got stuck in there, and that's just. I'm glad the resident pulled it out. Yep, it's fine. So you're going to write back to Mrs. Cox.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That concludes correspondence, and I don't believe there is no new business, which brings us to item 14, public questions and comments. A couple of people in the gallery, if they'd like to unmute. Mayor Broughton, you're first up.
Thank you. I just want to iterate the importance of council making the decision to do public consultation with both the Lions Bay Connector and the beach park, and to include the washrooms in the beach park. But on record, this council is on record as saying that it would consult prior to the design. You can't have a design without a consultation. So went to Councillor Barmier's question, which was a great question. What kind of information do you need? That concept, what is the concept? And then let's work.
Actually, Mayor Broughton, if I could be the bearer of bad news, I don't believe we've said that we wouldn't do any design work. On this, I said we would, I believe that we said we would do community consultation. CAO, do you have a further comment?
I think that you can reflect, I think that, why don't you review the, I suggest that you review the December 2019 end of the strategic planning meeting. I haven't reviewed it, but I'm confident that that was going to happen, that you directed the CAO maybe to get together with myself and some other people. And then in January, so January, February, but I think it was January. So I just want to caution the mayor and say that that is, I believe what occurred, and I can look that up if you like. But the other thing is that the
for clarity, Mayor Broughton.
Yeah,
I apologize for interrupting.
that's okay.
The project manager is doing the investigative work now.
That they're not investigating with the community. This community in its OCP is guided by community consultation. And with Michael Broughton's earlier comments that you guys were deprived of the opportunity to hear what this community is. And it's vitally important that you stop, look, and listen at this time. And with the park, that's just shocking that there's been so many requests to have the beach washrooms upgraded. When we did the Kelvin Grove under, with you on council, under me as seated as mayor, And the next online was the beach park. And for it to come up at the December 2019 strategic planning meeting, I was surprised that it was coming up, that it hadn't already been done. But I am now surprised to have heard one of our residents take that on and bring it forward and forward and forward to council. I don't believe, sitting here tonight, I don't believe that council is aware of what that park plan entails. And it's mostly maintenance. As I say, the play school, the playscape for the little ones is a community consultation process, and the washrooms need to be added and the rest is maintenance.
Thank you very much for your point of view, Mayor Broughton.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. Broughton. If you could unmute, thank you.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah, you're good.
I'd like to pick up on the Climate Action Committee report. I am a very strong proponent of heat pumps and certainly support the village moving forward as soon as grant funding is available. But I'm very concerned about the idea of incorporating wood burning fire units in the community center, completely contrary to the direction that, excuse me, Metro's moving in terms of wood smoke. And council provided a very excellent reference to a BC Lung Association presentation made last fall, which I actually watched, and it's very informative about the effect of wood smoke. And so to have the village contemplating putting in wood burning fireplace in the village center is quite contrary to all that. However, my understanding was that there was a plan in place to have backup power for the community center, because we're in an incredible environmentally sensitive time right now, where we could have power outages and prolonged power outages and climate emergencies, where our community center will become an ESS reception center. So my suggestion, ahead of installing heat pumps, or in conjunction with, but ahead of installing heat pumps, would be to seek ESS funding to get a backup generator for our community center. And whether that's assisting the oil furnaces to heat the center or not. I mean, if you have a fireplace heating the center, that's fine, but if there's no power in it, that's not helpful. So I would suggest that council act as early as possible to seek ESS funding to ensure that our community center is the reception center, is a fully operational reception center in the event of a climate emergency. And certainly could happen.
I just wanted to add some clarification, if you don't mind, Mr. Broughton. The hall currently has a backup generator. So it is currently fully supported by a generator.
Okay.
I think what this.
I was confused.
Yeah. So what I think what's really important, the takeaway of this exercise that we went through, there's so much stored energy in oil. It's an impressive fuel. Let's just call it that. And in order to replace that fuel with a heat pump that requires electric power, you're drawing a significant amount of power from the grid. And to support that heat pump in an outage with a backup generator, you're looking at a massive backup generator. So that's in addition to the generator that we already have. So there was too many layers of redundancy, and the capital costs tied to that particular secondary generator just to power the heat pump. It felt very lopsided. But I would invite you to come to a Climate Action Committee meeting, and we'd be happy to talk about that, because I think your input there would be great.
Thank you very much for that offer, Councillor Barmere.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your comments. Councillor Abbott.
Can I just comment on Mrs. Bratton's earlier comment? I think we need to be cognizant of the fact we've all read the 7 principles of public participation. And one of the key principles is that whatever public participation you engage, you allow that to change or define the outcome of what you're trying to do. To what Norm said earlier, if we need a concept to discuss something, that's one thing. But I don't think you should go do a detailed design based on something and then go to public consultation, because the chances of you then changing your design, A, is costly, and B, is unlikely to happen. So we need to make sure we get that stage gate in there, that we discuss it with residents at a concept level. I think that's what I'm not seeing that we all kind of grasp.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. Not that we're squabbling between ourselves, CEO, but what's your response to that?
Well, I would like to point out that an extensive amount of consultation was done at the time this project first came forward for the beach park. The Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee was formed in 2017. All the information is on the website. There were surveys put out to the community. There was a lot of meetings, a lot of input, a lot of ideas about what the washroom should include, what it shouldn't include, different ideas about the park. They were put into a concept drawing. More feedback was obtained from the public with respect to those ideas, and the concept drawing was altered as a result of that feedback. So there has been all that kind of preliminary high-level concept idea, feedback, and consultation with the public to a great extent already. It's time to prepare drawings in accordance with that feedback. It's time to take the next step, and that's where we're at in the process.
So we've done none of that on the connector. I was actually referring to the connector. We've done none of that on the connector.
Councillor Abbott is
I'm
correct.
sorry, Councillor Abbott, I don't know where the microphone is relative to you, but often I cannot understand what you're saying.
Just thank you very much, Mr. Broughton. If you could mute yourself. I think the comments here was CAO, and I recognize that we've asked the project manager to do certain things, and we've reported out what we've asked them to do. And as you understand it, what have we asked them to do on the connector, and where are they at?
Oh, I thought we were talking about the beach park.
I believe that, I think
We sort of
dealt-
crossed over.
The beach park is,
Okay, all right.
I've written on the beach park, I've sent the
so-
videos, I've sent the links, it's pretty straightforward what's going
So
on.
we've asked civil engineers to provide us with concept drawings with respect to the connector project, to set it all out so that we've got materials to go to public consultation. There's a timeline for that. I can't recall off the top of my head what that looks like. It's probably August, September timeframe. So there'll be extensive consultation in that respect. It's not a rush project. There's a long lead time on this project. There's no pending deadline. It can be extended quite a ways. So there'll be lots of opportunity for public consultation.
Please mute
Sorry,
yourself.
we have engineering drawings being done.
No, concept drawings. I think that's what you said, right?
All right, let me,
You're an engineering firm.
That's who does this kinds of drawings. There's a lot of different, there's Modi rights of way, there's the on-ramp, there's Modi lands that we have to go across. There's all kinds of aspects which those kinds of people are the best qualified to provide that kind of information in a plan, so that we have something to bring to a public consultation.
thank you very much, CAO. Would you please confirm that council's authorized you to do that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Broughton, but no, Mr. Sredsky?
Yes, thank you. There was no consultation for connector at all, public consultation. So let's not wash it under the table. And our current administrator keeps pushing things into our throats steady, which things that never happened. Your pseudo lawyer language doesn't cut it. It just repeats the same words. But the facts remain that there is no consultation. So please accept the consultations. Please don't interrupt me. I did not offend anybody. Please do not interrupt me. do not interrupt me. I did not said any words that offend anybody. Please do not interrupt me for the
Mr.
last time.
Sretsky, I will stop you right now and you may
I will
continue.
stop you as well, Mr. Mayor, if you
Yeah,
don't
come on,
stop
this is-
manipulating our society.
Thank you. And I think that will conclude the course, the public participation portion of the meeting. And we'll say thank you to the gallery who participated, those of you who have spoken. And there are some outstanding issues you can expect correspondence before the next council meeting. Thank you very much again for attending, and we'll say good night to you, and council will be going into in camera momentarily.
Actually, you're still the host.
Good evening, everybody. It's 10:02. Council's closed the in-camera meeting. And we are reporting out the following items. And that would be, the first one is with respect to Block Watch. And I'm pleased to say that Brian Ulrich and Nicole Allagash have come forward to lead the rekindling of Block Watch. More on Block Watch can be expected in a future Village Update article or more, and on our website. And I think personally, I'd like to thank Abbott for bringing this about and his continuing an outstanding effort to get Block Watch back into Lions Bay. The second one is the Curly Stewart Award winner is Andrew Hamilton, and we hope to present to him on Canada Day. The next piece is that after council discussion, the mayor is to respond to a public art and design committee request. And can I ask council to confirm those items on reporting out by saying yes, those opposed, no, yes, and council, can I ask that we go back into close for a minute?
On the ground of,
We didn't close. Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe, and we'll come back into the open in a second. Thank you, back again. It is 10:06, and we're back from close for just a second. We'd forgotten to close that meeting. Councillor Cunliffe, we're back in public. Can you put forward a motion to close the public meeting? Motion, Councillor Barmy, second. All those in favor, please say yes. Thank you. And CAO, can you close the mic?
yeah.